So there's this great line in the text. Betty, it's my new favorite line in the whole Bible. Jesus said, I know, that's the problem. Jesus said, they're all my favorite. Jesus says in this text, right there at the beginning, the Father and I will come and make our home in you. That line's a real deal. Gonna make our home in you. At the end of the passage here, Jesus says, now I've said all these things to you before they happen, so that when they happen, you'll know what's up. It's actually, teachers in the room, it's a good pedagogy, isn't it? No, I'm going to tell you this before it happens, so when it happens, you'll know, oh, that's what's happening. He told us about that. The Father and I will come and make a home in you. All right. So believe it or not, 1 year ago, time flies, huh? 1 year ago, I had a pretty serious case of heart trouble. Landed me in the hospital for 13 days. Good portion of that 13 days was in the cardiac ICU across the way, University of Kentucky Medical Center. And I wouldn't wish this sort of thing upon anyone. But if you need to focus on what's really important in life, it does help to nearly die. Huh? There was a moment. I was in the emergency room and the nurse taking care of me and I both thought I might slip away. Just as she was about to inject a dose of morphine into my arm to deal with my pain, I managed to whisper to her that I was going to pass out. I could feel the floor falling out beneath my feet, and that at that exact same moment, my blood pressure measurement appeared on the screen in front of her face. It was perilously low. She immediately pulled the needle away from my arm, yelled into that little microphone she had pinned to her chest for help. Come quick, come quick. And in that moment, there was a moment. In that moment and in the following days of my hospitalization, all of my thoughts and all of my feelings were leavened with a single realization. It's okay. It's okay. Whatever may befall me, it's okay. Now, don't read me wrong. It was neither a death wish nor a half-hearted will to live. You see, I love being alive. Can you tell? I love being alive. There's not a cell in my body that doesn't want to live. See, my feeling of okayness through it all, I believe, was the empowerment from within of grace, reminding me constantly that God was with me and within me, and that would never, ever change, not even for a single solitary second. And I never had the thought that what was happening to me was misfortune or unfairness. Those things just never crossed my mind. And again, don't read me wrong. It's not because I'm particularly pious or emotionally healthy or put together. To be honest, I'm quite often an absolute hot mess of selfishness, self-righteousness, insecurity, doubt. See, what I've come to believe, is that I was buoyed about by okayness when I was so sick because of what Jesus tells his disciples in today's gospel reading. The Father and I, we're going to make a home in you. See, Jesus is about to die. This is the farewell discourse in John's gospel. He's about to die, and he knows it, so he's saying goodbye. And he tells the disciples not to be afraid. He tells them wonderfully that he will not leave them orphaned, that in fact, he and the Father will come and make our home in you. That's what he says. What I felt when I flirted with death is that my actual body is the actual home of the actual God. And if my body is the home of God, then it is okay. Everything is okay, even when it's not okay. You see, what we believe is that there is nowhere that we can go, even down into the valley of desperate sickness and death, that God is not. Because God lives within us. And don't you read me wrong. This is not wishful, sentimental thinking. This is a direct teaching from Jesus. He says, I'm going to tell you these things before they happen, so when they happen, you'll know what's happening to you. Nearly 20 years ago, my Kristen was very sick. And I was waiting in a hospital room on her surgeons to come let me know how she was doing. I was all alone. I was 27, 28 years old, young. And I waited, and after a couple of hours of waiting, 2 surgeons came into the room. And I thought, 2 surgeons? And they told me in no uncertain terms that they had found cancer in her body. And when they left to finish the operation, I was left again alone in that big hospital room, pacing that hard floor, drowning in fear. Anybody ever been drowning in fear? And I spoke out loud. I spoke out loud to God. I asked a very direct question, true story. I said, God, where are you? And words that were not my own came from within my body and out of my mouth. I am here. I am here. And don't read me wrong, friends. Those words did not come from across the room or from somewhere above my head. They came from within my body. And in that moment, I remembered that Jesus said, the Father and I will come to you and make our home in you. There is nothing that happens to us that is not also happening to God. He said, I'm going to tell you all this stuff before it happens, so when it happens, you'll know what's happening. And you don't have to nearly die, by the way. You don't have to nearly die to realize this truth. I see it in children all the time. So it's the end of the school year, right? So we got a day school here. We got 150 kids almost from toddler to 5 years old. And last week we had several day school finale, like end of the year events. And in each one of the children who was celebrating the end of the year in their way, I saw the light and the joyful commotion of Christ in their eyes and in the bodies of their wiggling and their laughing and their dancing. In 100 moments and more, when they were singing, receiving their diplomas, and hugging their teachers, I remembered yet again that God dwells within us. He's made a home in those little children already. And so we'll end like this. Jesus' teaching is that when we keep his commandment to love with wasteful abandon, the indwelling God will surface. Does that make sense? In our lives in very real ways. We'll find that fear dissipates, loneliness evaporates, love radiates, joy emanates, and the peace that surpasses all understanding comes home to roost in our hearts, in our minds, in our bodies and our souls. And you know, I truly hope that these stories of mine don't simply sound fanciful or dramatic, like something the preacher's supposed to say from the pulpit place, right? What I hope it sounds like to you is testimony to the reality that the indwelling of God is real. The very home of God is in your heart right this second. So you have a love generator inside your chest. How wonderful is that? That's pretty awesome, isn't it? So what we're going to do right now is say these things to a baby, to Hank Kelly, on his first birthday. We're about to baptize Hank, and it's his first birthday. And we're going to say these things to him before he needs them, so that when he needs them, when he's 27 or 17 or who knows, he'll know it's true. That whatever may befall him, God is with him and within him. That he's Christ's own forever. That God has made his home in him. And it's okay. Everything is okay. Even when it's not. It's okay.